Stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Do I hear an approval of the agenda?
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second?
Call the question.
Okay, call the question.
Aye.
Aye.
Naomi?
Aye.
Okay. First on the agenda is the interview of the candidate for board position number 4. Would you please come up?
Well, good evening.
Good evening. Welcome.
Well, thank you.
First of many, I see. Lester Garrison or Rusty, is that your preference?
I do prefer Rusty, that's correct.
Okay.
So, Commissioner Klein, can we just do a quick sound check? Mr. Garrison, can you say hi or something so that we can make sure that...
One of our
Oh,
commissioners.
okay.
Roger, can hear you.
Naomi, hi.
I want to say that everything tonight is crystal clear.
Yay.
It might be because I have better reception, but I've heard every single person talk.
Very good.
Thank you for caring and comment. All right, thank you very much for letting us do that.
Okay, the board has some questions they would like to ask you,
Okay.
if you're willing to put up with us.
I'm on the menu. Go for it. You have a brief resume, I mean, on the, next to the last line there, it says, Senior Production Chemist, Astoria Pacific, the date should be 1994 to 2012. Got 1986.
Oh, okay.
That's one correction, but other than that, it's mostly true.
Uh-oh.
That's the good part. I think we've all reviewed that. Thank you for the correction. There are a few questions we might have, if you're ready for those.
Oh, goody. Well, having been in your spot not too awfully long ago, you have quite an impressive resume and your civic service is outstanding. Especially I have to commend you for being a CASA advocate. That's very high priority in my book. You say you're retired, but yet you own your own business, so you're busy with that. You're still busy, I would assume, in community service.
Yes.
Because once, looking at this, once you started, you would never stop.
I'm the property elder and on the session at Milwaukee Presbyterian Church.
Okay.
And have been for some years.
Okay. This position, as I found out, is not just like a one night a month, 2 hours, and call it good. There are other duties and all sorts of things. Do you have time in your schedule to do all this stuff? Believe me, it's a surprise.
I believe I do. I talked with Todd about what the hours required. They got a good picture from him.
Okay. And I would like to know, you said you would bring good insight and ideas, and I'd like to know, just give me an insight or idea that comes to mind.
Well, chemists are primarily problem solvers, and that's been the crux of my career. State of California came to us, Outcome Corporation, and wanted a test for newborn screening for inborn errors in metabolism that wasn't on the books anyplace. And they actually wanted 2 tests. They wanted a test to improve the testing for PKU. In addition to phenylalanine, they wanted to test for the amino acid tyrosine, because in the disease state, it's the ratio that is skewed. And if you look at the ratio, it becomes a 12 times better predictor of disease state. And for galactosemia, they were looking at metabolite, galactose, in the bloodstream, but that necessitates giving the infant a feeding and waiting a couple days for the galactose level to rise. They asked us, and we did develop a test for the enzyme itself, so that you could test immediately at birth and have a very good predictor of disease state. Both of these took months and months and months to develop, and a year and a half or so beyond that to get FDA approval to sell. And I was a lead chemist all the way through the process on both of those. We had presented with an idea or a problem and just ran with it.
Okay. Next.
Presky, thank you for showing an interest in this board. We always struggle to find.
Yeah, I've been
People.
following
And that's my question. Have you been following along?
I've been following Clackamas River water for some years. I took my first job in the area in 1979 and my first house in the area in 1982, so I've been around.
Yeah, so you know what's kind of going on.
Yeah.
So Hugh and I were kind of the ones after the problem board that we had, trying to get the district
I
back into
recognize
shape.
that the past several years have been a very smooth operation, and
Well, it's certainly
Hard.
been different than the previous group that,
it's hard to invite somebody to a mess.
it is. And I had some reservations about that, and you and I have
I
had to
actually
live.
applied for the board last time, or probably 5-6 years ago.
Oh, did you?
But it would not have been a pretty sight to see.
No, because it was really stressful, you and I, because we were being sued and
Thank
all
you for
kinds
your
of things.
service.
And so, I'm glad to hear that you've kind of been following along, because we've got probably the largest project this district has ever done with our backbone project that we're building there, you see on the wall.
I had about a 1 hour peek at that Monday morning.
Did you? Good. Yeah, go up to 152nd and look at the reservoir that's being built there.
I went to Todd's office for an hour.
Oh, well,
He
don't
liked
be afraid to go up and look, they're doing some gangbusters up there right
Right,
now. It's
right.
getting to be an exciting time, there's actually reservoir getting built now. And so it's interesting, they're going down a steep hill, like solving problems. There's an interesting engineering feat being accomplished there with trying to restrain that pipe on the hillside. So if you could kind of tell us about how you view the ratepayers, what you see your responsibility being to the ratepayers here and those kind of things.
Well, as a public utility, I think there's no more important issue than providing clean drinking water at a fair price. And I think right now the board does that, and we need to continue to do that. It's gonna take me a while to get an overview of everything that you need to look at in
Amen to
that
that.
process.
Yeah, so part of the reason for that project is we don't serve one drop of water to our south service area. We buy it all wholesale from South Fork Water Board or from the city of Oregon City.
Mhm.
And so we have hardly any control over what it costs, and we certainly don't have any control over the quality or anything of that. It's all pretty good water, but we'd much rather help our situation at our plant, give Rob, our plant operator, more to do to supply that water. And so that's kind of the reason for that. And so, it's one of those things where that's important. We got phase one going, we need to get phase two up and running, so. I don't have anything else.
Okay, well, I just have some minor things you've pretty well covered with your background and what you anticipate going on with the district. But it sounded to me like when you were talking a little bit earlier that you have had some experiences with the government when you were doing on your business. Is that?
I have. I was a primary contact for the Food and Drug Administration in corresponding with them and writing up submissions. And every 2 years, they would inspect our plant, and would be 2 inspectors, 3 days. And we had several of those inspections where they found no deficiencies noted. And I consider those feathers in my cap
Congratulations.
for that. They are difficult taskmaster, but they recognize our company as one of the good guys, so that helps.
Good, good. So that you have quite a bit of experience then with this sort of thing. I don't have any other questions. You pretty much answered everything.
Okay,
Oh,
so-
Naomi, excuse me. You're nothing but a voice off there and never,
No,
never.
nobody
land.
I know, anyway, so it's nice, but I want to double what Commissioner French said about your dealings with CASA, which is, I believe, a very important thing that you've done. When did you do that?
That was in the late 80s and early 90s.
Okay, so that was a little while ago. So I have a question about what do you think the role of you pretty much answered why you want to be on the board. So my follow-up question would be, have you ever been on a board, and what do you think the role of being on a government board is? I mean, how do you envision being a board member?
Oh. Well, I haven't been on a board. I have been on the session of our Presbyterian church, and I have about, going on 9 years experience there with like a 1 year off in that, and it's offering leadership and insight to the process of governing or managing the entity. I think that when you have 4 or 5 individuals looking at a problem, that you get a much better approach and a much better solution than you do with just an individual. It's a very...
Right, yeah. So a lot of the problems, it's in my opinion, are already being answered by the staff, and so, I mean, we're sort of the general policy makers, and rather than the minute, this is how we get the water to the faucet. Do you get my general drift here?
Oh, yeah, well, you want to make sure that that the right things are looked at, that
Right,
staff
yeah.
training is done, that risk management is addressed in the correct
Right,
way,
yeah.
and matters like that.
Right, and I appreciate your being on the board of the Presbyterian. I'm on the board of my congregation too, so I understand that particular role. Okay, I don't think I have any other questions.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Naomi.
It sounds to me we need a motion from the board.
Okay, how about I move to appoint Rusty Garrison to fill the remainder of the term position number 4 that ends on June 30, 2019 for the Clackamas River Water Board of Commissioner, and instruct our notary to administer the oath of office.
Second.
Vote?
Yep.
Commissioner Anger,
Yes,
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes?
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Welcome aboard.
So wait, there's more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's right.
Now,
You get to get swore at now.
you get,
So I just sit tight?
so hang on for a moment. We're gonna, Karen will administer the oath of office. And then once you have
Will I move
completed
over
that.
there?
No, you're fine.
You're fine, Reba.
And then once you've completed that, we'll have you move up to the table.
Well, thank you all.
Yeah, we'll see what you say.
Well, thank you for
So,
coming in.
what I've found in the past works well is if I give you a copy of what is to be read rather than me saying, then you're repeating back.
Right.
Sometimes that's a little nerve-wracking for folks. So,
My ears still work pretty well.
So we will make you stand and address her, so there you go, all right.
so
That will
let's
be
go
official.
ahead and start.
So I just
just go ahead and read right through for, starting with I, and then,
I, Lester Garrison, do hereby swear to faithfully discharge the duties of Commissioner of Clackamas River Water District under Oregon Revised Statutes, Chapter 264, according to the Constitution of the United States of America and the State of Oregon, and the laws of the State of Oregon, to the best of my ability during the term of office to which I was appointed. It's 30th day of August, 2018.
perfect. Okay, so I will have you sign, I will notarize, and then you are official.
Sign in the book too.
Yeah. I had it printed. So I'll get your driver's license afterwards. That's all I need.
All right.
And wait till you see your homework.
Had a lot of homework at the university.
I kid you not, I walked in and they walked out with like a stack of this, I'm glad I brought my pickup. It was a lot. Helpful, but it was a lot.
Oh, and also, I wanted also to say that I'm glad to have somebody else from the North End. I've been the sole representative from the North End of the district, so
Oh,
that will be nice.
well, now we've got two.
Right.
Thank you.
That's our agenda, I'll show you. Where do you have a copy?
Does he have a packet?
Okay.
All right.
Okay, you have,
Yeah, he's got a copy of the agenda.
I'm all right.
Okay, we're ready if you are to proceed to item 4.
so 1 through 3 we're completed with.
Yeah.
Number 4 is consider the contract award for the Hatton Road Transmission Main, project 15-5191. And Joe Eskew is the engineering manager.
Want to make a motion?
Yeah, motion to accept.
So I move to award the Hatton Road Transmission Main construction contract to Panning Incorporated for the bid amount of $3,225,175 and authorize the general manager to sign the completed contract.
Second.
All right.
Good evening, Commissioners. Welcome, Commissioner Russi. This is a project, backbone project number 7. The design effort was led by our chief engineer, Adam, and he has entrusted me to do the project management for the construction phase of this project. We bid projects earlier this year. We received 6 bids. The low bid was by Tapany, who also did our Butterfield project. And we're confident in their ability to perform the Hatton Road project and look for your approval to award that contract.
So can you tell me why you think there's such a spread, and is it just what's going on in the industry?
It's pretty common. Some of these people will bid high because they don't want the job, but they don't want to not bid. When you get into the larger numbers like this, you will see some bid spreads, like from low to the second low is almost $500,000. I didn't do it.
I mean, the high's over $1 million
Yeah.
spread. And then you do that in your sleep.
I'm not a contractor, I really can't explain.
Yeah.
I have to say, some years ago, I was on a project that Tapany had the contract for. They did an outstanding job, and it was fast. So I hope it's the same crew.
We have high hopes.
Okay. Any other questions?
I don't have any.
I don't either. Good job.
Naomi, do you have any questions?
No, it looks good.
Okay, thank you.
I keep forgetting she's in the box.
Well, yeah,
You need to come back. I'm a little outnumbered down here.
Don't worry about
There
that.
you go, there you
Oh,
go.
there you go, picture.
There you go.
yeah, that's a good idea. Okay, let's,
So if you're ready,
Ready for roll call?
ready for a vote.
Okay. Commissioner Anger,
Yes,
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes,
Motion passes unanimously.
thank you, Joe.
Very good. The next, consider extending the contract with P&L Moore Development. And that's the one that's doing the, dealing with the, some of the people with whom we're gonna be contacting to buy their property or work on their property for easements and one thing or another.
I move the board approve extending the contract with CML Moore Development LLC through December 31st, 2018, and authorize the general manager to sign the contract extension on behalf of the Board of Commissioners.
Second. I have a question, it might be a point of order.
okay.
So we had a rather lengthy executive session that involved this. I want to know from council whether or not we need to come back out here and give this contract some direction or not. Because we reviewed a lot of information, so I'm confused about how we take what we talked about with the properties and those kind of things in that, and then approve this. I just want to make sure that we don't get sideways here.
As I understand it, you made no decisions in the executive session. You
No.
discussed the background circumstances of these different matters, which of course is appropriate.
Okay.
There's no need to repeat that in the public session. And so Mr. Moore can use that information and come back to you as needed.
Okay, so he can go ahead and move forward with what we talked about without us having to do something here.
That's correct.
Okay, that's all I wanted to make sure that we were good on.
Very good, and,
Any other questions?
The minutes, however, should reflect that discussion, is that correct?
No.
not necessarily.
The executive sessions are recorded, and so commissioners have the ability to listen to the recordings, but minutes are not prepared of the executive.
Oh, I meant the minutes of this meeting should reflect that executive session. Is that correct? That just mentioned that occurred.
Well, the minutes from the previous meeting will reflect the fact that the board went into executive session for that.
Oh,
purpose.
okay.
Yes.
That covers it very well.
Yeah, so, yeah, that has to be advertised.
Right.
And boy, did we cover it.
Yeah, forever, it's like, anyhow.
Yeah, just to make sure.
So,
I'm done. You guys handle everything I'm gonna talk about tonight.
Gee.
Okay, we're ready for a
So,
vote.
yeah.
Roll. Commissioner Anger,
yes,
Commissioner French,
Yes.
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
And now we have a work session.
One more.
One more.
One more?
We
Bradley
gotta
Road.
accept the water line on Bradley Road.
Agenda item 6.
Oh, okay, excuse me. Yeah, project acceptance for the Bradley Road water line replacement project. And Joe will review it for us.
Need a motion first.
Yeah.
So I move to approve the notice of acceptance for the Bradley Road water line replacement project to establish the project completion date of August 30, 2018, and authorize the general manager's signature on and the notice of acceptance.
Second.
Joe's available to give you a quick
There we go.
overview. and-
Okay.
Right, for those who weren't here the last year, I guess, I think you remember when we first talked about this project. This is a offsite to provide adequate fire flow to a subdivision in our Holcomb service area. The district is participating in that construction cost for the upsizing from a 8-inch to a 12-inch main. The results of that construction led to approximately 20 psi pressure reduction at the discharge of the pumps that pump up to the Hunter Heights reservoirs, and provided an additional 60 gallons a minute by increasing from the existing 6-inch pipe to the 12-inch pipe that we currently have. So those are immediate results from the improvement of that water line. The contractor performed well, did an excellent job. The county's happy, we're happy, and the acceptance of this water line will allow him to produce the warranty bond that is required. The notice of acceptance and the letter that I will attach to it are what the surety will use in order to write that bond.
How long do we hold that?
It's a 2-year bond.
It's 2, okay.
I only have one question, and it was just, and I know it's done, and when I see Clackamas County and service restoration, I cringe, because they haven't been exactly formidable. What they,
How do you,
well, I mean, on the what was the bridge? Carver Bridge, well, let's just say, and I, when I see them, that, to me, that's, I seen that and I did, oh man, were there problems this time, or
are
were
you
they play
referring
nice,
to
or?
the Bradley Road project or
Yeah.
the Hatton Road project?
Well,
We have
what we're talking about,
something
the Bradley
special
Road.
going on Hatton Road that didn't occur on Bradley.
Right, well, this is on, I'm reading the Bradley Road stuff right now, and that's, because
On-
they
On
haven't.
Bradley Road, the requirements of the permit, which the contractor got his permit from the county on his own. We
Mhm.
weren't a party to that permit. The requirement was a grind and inlay for the half street that they disturbed in installing that water line. We did that satisfactory.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Yeah, what was the increased flow rate? The background paragraph here says, with a flow increase of about 500 gallons per minute.
First page, second paragraph.
Yeah, second.
You mentioned a different figure, or I heard you wrong.
I quoted it wrong. Pardon me?
Is that correct, what's written? I mean, it's
I
approximately.
pulled it from the email that you were provided from the plan.
I think you said 60, and that sounded way too low. All right.
I can double check that.
It was a market improvement, however.
Yes. The existing water line was a 6-inch steel line, and there's
50 years old, plus.
so we doubled that. Since the volume of the flow rate through a water line is
Well, if you went
the velocity times the area, and the area is calculated off the square of the radius.
Yeah, if you double the size, you
It
quadruple
isn't
the
just
flow.
double the flow surface, flow rate, it's that square root.
Right. All right, thank you.
All right.
I'm good.
Any other questions?
No?
Very good. Vote?
Ready? Commissioner Anger,
Yes.
Commissioner French,
Yes?
Commissioner Garrison,
Yes.
Commissioner Kalani,
Yes.
Commissioner McNeil.
Yeah.
Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, it's your turn.
Thank you. Adjourn the meeting.
Adjourn it.
Gotta adjourn.
Oh,
Turn us off
okay.
before you turn us
We're
off.
going on a work session.
Yeah.
Okay, adjourn the special meeting, we'll continue with the work session. And open meetings.
Trustee, welcome aboard. Oh, thank you.
Good
I made it.
Did you get elected?
Yeah, I am. I'm not sure what I'm running for, but.
You've been running a long time.
Yeah.
Yes.
What's he running from?
Well, I might be too. Here, here.
You know, ironically, what I'm gonna talk about tonight is exactly where you started tonight with executive session and how you address that and how important it is. Russ, you haven't been here for the first several of these. The first two were more of a 30,000-foot look at the 10 major state and federal laws that impact you and how you operate. And then our duties, how a judge would look at us, and there are 6 of those. Set organizational direction, which is really mission, vision, values, it's planning. Provide resources, which can't print money as much as we'd like to be able to, but use those resources wisely and to provide and have a competent, good general manager. Oversight, watch the money, make sure you stay on point with your strategic plan. Care, loyalty, and obedience. Come prepared to do business. Be loyal always, whether you're here or away from here. And important, if you're sitting on multiple boards, loyal to this board while you're here, and then obedient to your plans. This talk tonight and the next one really get granular. We get down to where angry civilians try to get aboard. And ironically, so often it's not from an action that they pursue you on, it's from a prior action. They're angry about something we did as a organization, as a public entity, but you've done everything right. So there's no way for the civilian, as an individual, to, if you will, get even, make a point. So what they do sometimes is they learn about the law and find areas where it's easy to misstep. So this tonight is going to be real sentinel about how you want to make sure you conduct yourself. And what I loved seeing right up front was referring to your attorney. Now, this was not pre-planned, although I should get some kind of royalty lunch or something for this, but I'm just planting a seed. The fact that you have your attorney here is the best money you'll ever spend, in my opinion, for 2 reasons. First of all, what you're going to hear tonight is that this is land that is, these laws are moving all the time. 192 and 244 ethics, every time we're in session, the law will change. And I'm going to address that, and it will stun you how fast it changes and how we're on solid ground on Tuesday and on Wednesday, we're not. The second thing is that by having your attorney here and working on his counsel, you have some protection. So we'll have a little fun with that. I think having legal here is wise because you'll get into situations sometimes that can be difficult in making sure that we comply with issues, especially executive session. So with that, I'm going to have a little bit of fun. I'm going to go through the first several slides quickly. And what I want to show you is how detailed the state is with open meetings and public records. This statute is currently 80 pages long, and it is involved. The first couple of slides, I'm going to go very quickly through them, but they talk about what is public records, how we archive and keep them, the fact they need to be in English, which is interesting that we have to put that into writing. The executive department, we talk about public reports, inspection of those records, where, how, when they can be inspected. These are chapters in the law. Oh. There we go. How we archive, keep them, how they're oversight. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. It gets into disabilities and mental illness, genetic privacy. We talk about healthcare records. It's very detailed. This particular part of the chapter is the one that's most important for you. And this is how we conduct ourselves in public meetings. It talks about financial records. electronic records. It goes into great detail about every piece of material that you make, keep, and store for the district. The next two slides are going to talk about minor points in those sections to give you an idea of how Oregon looks at public records. And the point that they try to make, or that I want to make tonight, is that Oregon is a state that wants us to have, as elected officials, clean hands. They want us to do everything in public view, full view, because it's their dollars that are being spent, with one exception, executive session. And as you spoke about earlier tonight, that's one of the areas that the public really is focused on. I'll leave it at that.
Curious about.
Curious. And anytime you go behind closed doors, suspicions. They think that maybe